Long before there were nations, flags, or religions, there was fear. The first humans did not fight for power, they fought for survival. They fought the cold, the hunger, the darkness, and the unknown that lurked beyond the firelight. Conflict, in the beginning, was not evil. It was instinct. It was the language of survival, the rhythm of existence in a world that gave nothing easily. When two tribes met at the edge of a river, the question was simple: who drinks first? Who lives, and who leaves? And so, long before humanity learned compassion, it learned competition. Long before we learned to love, we learned to defend. Our ancestors discovered that unity was powerful, but unity often came from a shared enemy. Peace was not the natural state of humankind. Conflict was. Every weapon humanity ever forged began as a tool. The stick that gathered fruit became the spear. The stone that built a home became the blade. Even fire, our first divine gift, could cook food or destroy forests. The same hands that create can also kill. The same mind that builds civilizations can justify genocide. Somewhere in that paradox lies the first truth of why peace seems impossible. Because violence, in its rawest form, is not something outside us. It's something within us. Anthropologists tell us that early humans lived in small groups, bound by kinship and necessity. Trust ended where familiarity ended. Every stranger was a threat, every difference, a danger. To protect their group, humans built tribes. To protect their tribes, they built walls. And to protect those walls, they built weapons. From there, war became not just an act, but an idea. An idea that survival required domination, that safety required strength, that victory was the only path to peace. And from that ancient belief, every empire, every army, every act of conquest was born. We often imagine that civilization made us peaceful. But history tells another story. The first cities were built not for beauty, but for defense. The first governments arose not to ensure fairness, but to maintain control. And the first laws were written not to inspire goodness, but to punish defiance. We built civilizations not to escape war, but to organize it. Even our myths remember. Cain and Abel, the first brothers divided by jealousy. Rome and Carthage, burning each other for pride. Empires rising and falling, each believing they were chosen by destiny, by gods, by fate itself. And every time the story ended the same way, in ashes. Because humanity never truly learns peace. It only pauses between wars. The silence after the storm becomes the illusion of calm, until another wind of greed or fear blows, and the cycle begins again. Why did humans learn to fight? Because conflict gave identity. It told us who we were, and who we were not. To say we always needed a they. To say ours always meant there was theirs. War became our way of defining existence, and that ancient fire still burns inside us. The desire to protect what's ours, even if it means destroying what's theirs. We inherited not just the weapons of our ancestors, but their instincts. Even today, when we scroll through headlines or social media, that ancient fire still flickers in our hearts, in anger, in fear, in judgment. We no longer use spears, but our words cut deeper. We no longer hunt for survival, but we compete as if our worth depends on it. Modern man is ancient man, disguised in technology. The tools have evolved, but the mind has not. There is an old saying, peace is the dream of the wise, but the history of man is written in blood. We are the descendants of survivors, not peacemakers. Every gene we carry was passed on by someone who fought to stay alive. And so, war became our inheritance, written into our instincts, passed down like a sacred curse. Even our heroes are warriors. Our stories glorify conquest, our monuments celebrate victory, and our education often teaches history as a sequence of battles, not as lessons of compassion. We remember the generals, not the healers. We quote the conquerors, not the quiet souls who refuse to fight. And that, perhaps, is the tragedy of human civilization. We have worshipped strength for so long that we have forgotten the courage it takes to be gentle. The ancient fire taught us survival, but survival without wisdom became destruction. It made us clever enough to build weapons, but not wise enough to put them down. And even today, when we speak of peace, We speak like warriors. We say we will fight for peace, battle injustice, defeat evil. We use the language of war even to describe our hope. We cannot create peace using the same mind that creates conflict. Until humanity understands this, until we stop fighting even for peace, that ancient fire will keep burning. It may change shape, from swords to missiles, from armies to algorithms. But the flame is the same. The fire that once protected us now consumes us. And so, the question remains. If conflict is so deeply woven into the fabric of our history, can humanity ever truly unlearn it? Or will peace always be just a fragile pause between two inevitable wars? We live on one planet, one fragile sphere of dust and breath, floating in infinite darkness. Yet, we have divided it with lines that don't exist in nature. Lines we call borders. We have drawn them across rivers, through mountains, even through the hearts of people, and then convinced ourselves that these invisible boundaries are worth dying for. From the sky, there are no borders, only earth, only water, only the endless beauty of creation. But from the ground, there are walls, concrete, steel, ideology. We say they protect us. But more often, they imprison us. Every nation begins with the same dream, to unite its people. But the tragedy is, in uniting one group, it always separates another. Patriotism begins as love for one's home, a pure emotion, a sense of belonging. But somewhere along the way, it transforms into a shield of superiority. We start believing that our flag is holier, our suffering deeper, our destiny greater. And that's how the illusion begins, the illusion that peace can exist within borders, while the world beyond them burns. Every war is fought in the name of protection, protecting land, protecting identity, protecting pride. But when the dust settles, what remains? Fields filled with graves instead of crops, homes reduced to rubble, maps redrawn by the same hands that once promised peace. We forget that no land belongs to anyone forever. Empires rise, empires fall, but the soil remains the same. It doesn't care who owns it. It only knows how to grow flowers from the blood spilled upon it. Humanity has always sought unity, through tribe, religion, nation, ideology. But every time we unite, it is against someone. Our unity is fragile because it depends on division. We say, we are one, but only within the circle we've drawn. Everyone outside becomes them. Borders give us identity, but they also give us enemies. And as long as us and them exist, peace will remain impossible. Imagine for a moment a child born today. She doesn't know the meaning of flags or frontiers. She doesn't see race or nationality or class. She only knows the hands that hold her, the love that feeds her. But soon she'll be taught where she belongs. And more dangerously, where she does not. She'll learn the names of her heroes and the labels of her enemies. She'll grow up under a banner she did not choose, and perhaps one day she may die defending it. All because humanity never learned to see beyond the illusions it created. We say the world is connected now, through technology, trade, travel. But connection without compassion only builds digital walls instead of physical ones. Borders may separate nations, but ideologies now separate hearts. We have become tribes again, tribes of belief, of culture, of outrage. Every side convinced that its truth is the only truth. And the irony? We live in an age of unprecedented knowledge, yet we understand each other less than ever before. Throughout history, great leaders have spoken of unity. But unity cannot be declared, it must be felt. It cannot exist through treaties or flags, but through empathy. Through the recognition that no border can separate human pain from human love. A mother in Gaza grieves the same way as a mother in Tel Aviv. A refugee in Ukraine bleeds the same color as a soldier in Moscow. A child in Africa dreams of peace the same way a child in America does. Yet we keep building walls, not because we need them, but because we've forgotten how to trust without them. Borders are not just lines on maps. They are lines in our minds. We've built them around nations, but also around ideas, around faith, around love. We fear crossing them because we've been told that safety lies within, not beyond. But maybe true peace will only begin when someone dares to step across. Because peace doesn't require a world without borders. It requires hearts without walls. The great Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti once said, "When you call yourself an Indian, or a Muslim, or a Christian, or a European, you are being violent. Because to define yourself by exclusion is to deny another's humanity. Until we stop defining ourselves by what divides us, the illusion of unity will continue. Beautiful in words, but hollow in reality. But perhaps there's still hope. Because every border that has ever existed was drawn by human hands. And what humans create, humans can erase. Peace begins when we stop seeing the world as a map of nations and start seeing it as a home of souls. When we stop asking, "Where are you from?" and start asking, "Who are you becoming?" Then perhaps peace will no longer be an illusion. It will be the natural rhythm of our shared humanity. Every time humanity bleeds, we promise, never again. After every war, every genocide, every horror, we tell ourselves that peace will follow. We build treaties. We form alliances. We create councils and charters, declaring that the world has learned its lesson. But time and again, peace becomes just another word, a mask worn by power. Because in the world of politics, peace is rarely the absence of war. It is the management of conflict, the delicate art of pretending the world is stable while everyone secretly sharpens. Nations do not seek peace. They seek advantage. Leaders do not negotiate to end suffering. They negotiate to control the outcome. And those who truly speak for peace, the poets, the visionaries, the dreamers, are often silenced, exiled, or ignored. The tragedy of politics is that it turns even hope into a currency. Peace talks become performances. Agreements become weapons in disguise. Every handshake hides a calculation. Peace becomes possible only when it is profitable. After World War II, humanity swore that global unity would prevent future bloodshed. The United Nations was born, a beacon of dialogue in a divided world. But the same nations that preached peace built their empires in its shadow. While the ink on peace treaties was still drying, the Cold War began. Two superpowers split the planet like children fighting over a toy. Each claimed to defend peace by preparing for total destruction. Nuclear arsenals multiplied, propaganda became a new kind of weapon, and peace turned into a paradox. We will maintain peace by threatening annihilation. That was the birth of a modern religion, the politics of fear. Even today, when we speak of world peace, it is not through compassion, but through control. Nations fund peacekeeping missions while selling weapons. They condemn war crimes while supplying the wars. They speak of human rights while exploiting the powerless. The world is not divided by geography, but by hypocrisy. In every capital city, decisions are made not by conscience, but by calculation. And the victims of those calculations, the innocent, the voiceless, are the forgotten cost of stability. History remembers leaders who won peace, but often their peace was written over the ruins of someone else's world. Alexander declared peace after conquest. Rome brought order through domination. Even modern democracies have imposed peace through drones, sanctions, and secret wars. It's not that humanity doesn't want peace. It's that those in power fear what peace might take away. Control, profit, obedience. Peace threatens the powerful because it empowers the people. When there are no enemies, governments lose their excuse for oppression. When there is no fear, the machinery of control stops turning. And so, the system must keep the world slightly unstable, always anxious, always divided, always ready to believe that peace requires power. But perhaps the most painful truth is this. Even the common people, the ordinary citizens, become complicit in the politics of peace. We are told who to hate, and we obey. We are told which nation is the enemy, and we believe. We are told that sacrifices must be made for peace, and we accept the lie. We forget that peace built on injustice is not peace. It is silence before the next explosion. There is a famous quote by Jean-Paul Sartre, "When the rich wage war, it's the poor who die." But in truth, it is not just the poor who die. It is the innocence of humanity itself. Every political peace built on deceit poisons the next generation. Children grow up inheriting the mistrust their leaders sowed. Hatred becomes tradition. Conflict becomes culture. And so the cycle repeats, not because people are evil, but because systems are built to sustain. Peace cannot exist where truth is denied. It cannot survive in a world where justice is selective and empathy is conditional. You cannot build peace with propaganda. You cannot maintain harmony with hypocrisy. You cannot talk about unity while profiting from division. Yet this is what politics has become. A theater where peace is performed, not practiced. Every summit, every handshake, every televised moment of unity hides the same silent question: who benefits from this peace? Because the truth is, if peace doesn't serve power, it doesn't last. The world doesn't need more treaties. It needs more truth. It doesn't need more promises. It needs people who refuse to be divided by those who profit from division. But perhaps that is why peace seems impossible. Not because humanity lacks compassion, but because compassion has no political value. In the marketplace of power, empathy doesn't sell. Peace will remain fragile until it becomes more valuable than control, until it serves humanity more than it serves governments. And so, peace remains hostage, trapped between what we say and what we do, between the speeches of leaders and the cries of the forgotten, between the dream of a better world and the reality of human ambition. Until that changes, the politics of peace will remain the most powerful illusion ever created. We have always dreamed of peace. Every nation sings about it, every religion preaches it, and every generation promises to achieve it. But here we are, thousands of years after the first spark of civilization, still drowning in wars, hatred, and division. From ancient empires to modern nations, from swords to nuclear bombs, humanity has changed everything except its nature. Peace has remained a beautiful illusion, a word that comforts the mind but rarely touches reality. Why is peace impossible? Why do humans who can build rockets to the stars still fail to build peace on their own planet? Why does every age repeat the same tragic story of hope, of violence, and of regret? Perhaps the answer lies not in our weapons or in our leaders, but in the mirror. Because peace is not lost in politics. It's lost in the human heart. It's lost when fear becomes stronger than compassion, when the hunger for control silences the voice of empathy. We have built civilizations that can cure disease, harness energy, and connect billions of minds. Imagine a world where a child grows up hearing only stories of love, never of hate. Where nations compete in kindness, not in killing. Where the idea of war is as unthinkable as the idea of enslaving another human being. We dream of such a world. But dreams fade when morning comes, because the morning brings back the same reality: borders, beliefs, power, and fear. We are creatures torn between two natures, one that creates art and one that creates war, one that builds temples and one that burns them, one that prays for peace and one that destroys it. Philosophers have written about this paradox for centuries. The Greek tragedians called it hubris, the arrogance that leads men to destroy themselves. Religious scriptures call it sin, the darkness within the human soul. Modern psychologists call it ego, the mind's obsession with identity and control. But whatever name we give it, the truth remains. Humanity is at war not with others, but with itself. We don't fight because we are different. We fight because we fear difference. We don't hate because we are evil. We hate because we are afraid. Peace is not impossible because the world is cruel. Peace is impossible because we have not yet evolved beyond our need to dominate, to belong, to be superior. Even our peace is conditional. We want peace, but only if our side wins. We want harmony, but only if our beliefs remain unquestioned. We talk of love, but only for those who look like us, pray like us, or think like us. This is the hidden tragedy of humanity. We desire peace, but we design division. We speak of unity, but we build walls. We teach morality, but we practice ego. And until we change this, not through laws, but through consciousness, peace will remain a dream that never comes true. Every war begins with an illusion. That we can control violence, that we can win peace through power. But peace cannot be conquered. It must be understood. It must be lived. And so, as we begin this journey through history, politics, religion, and the human soul, we must ask the hardest question of all. Is peace truly impossible? Or have we simply refused to become the kind of beings who deserve it? Because maybe the tragedy is not that peace cannot exist, but that humanity has never been ready for it. Subscribe for more deep dive explainers on humanity, love and peace.